Open world games have gotten so stupid. Not bad, not boring, stupid. Like someone looked at the concept of exploration and said, you know what this needs? 700 icons. So you never have to think, you never have to wonder, the game is essentially a to-do list with a prettier background. You don't explore, you don't process. Crimson Desert looked at that and said, absolutely not. And then it made me feel like a complete idiot for 6 hours before I understood why. This is what this video is about. Let me first describe you the modern open world experience to you. You boot the game, 15-minute cinematic, fine. You get control, immediately compass full of icons. Yellow ones, white ones, question marks, little chess pictures. You look at this compass and your eyes cross slightly because there is so much information on it that it is basically its own loading screen. But here's the thing. Your brain doesn't panic. Your brain has been trained. 10 years of open world games have conditioned you to receive this information and respond to it the same way every time. Icon equals content. Content equals progression. Progression equals good. Go to the icon, do the thing, get the dopamine, next icon. You are not exploring, you are just processing a queue. And the open world genre is so deep in this that even games trying to be different are doing it. You want innovation? Here's innovation. The icons are hidden now. You have to climb a tower to reveal them. Groundbreaking. Even the ambitious ones, the ones that launch with a genuine vision, within 2 years the map is covered. Because players complain when they are lost. Players leave bad reviews when they can't figure out where to go. And the universal solution is always the same. More icons, more arrows, more waypoints, make it safe. Make it absolutely sure no one ever has to sit with confusion for more than 30 seconds. And what you end up with is a genre that has completely forgotten how to let the world breathe. How to let you wander without permission. How to make you feel like the world exists for reasons that have nothing to do with entertaining you specifically at this exact moment. Most open world games feel like theme parks, designed, curated. Every experience is placed on the map for you to consume in order. But Crimson Desert feels like a country you just moved to. And moving to a new country, deeply, profoundly, uncomfortably disorienting at first. So, Crimson Desert. March 2026, Pearl Abyss, the same people behind Black Desert Online, which is either your favorite MMO or a game you quit after 4 hours and never thought about again. Literally no in between, I know because I've asked. Before launch, the discourse around this game was genuinely all over the place. Journalists coming out of early demos were writing things like, I've been playing for an hour and I genuinely cannot tell you what this is yet. Trailers look like someone fed Witcher 3, Dragon's Dogma, Red Dead Redemption 2 and a Korean MMO in a blender, hit the button and just sent it. And yet, nearly 5 million copies in the opening window. And people are still, weeks later, asking the exact same questions they were asking before it launched. What is this game? That's either the game failing to communicate what it is, or the game being something that doesn't fit in any box you already have. The answer, if you're curious, is both. You are Cliff, a mercenary leading a band called the Greymans through a brutal physics-driven open world. Combat is inspired by fighting games, progression is gear-based, not level-based. The world is a living simulation. There are life skills, base building, animal companions, a parallel magical dimension called the Abyss. And at some point the game is going to suggest you clean a chimney. I know, we will absolutely get there. But the point is, this game is a lot. It is aggressively a lot, and it dumps all of that on you in the first few hours without apology or explanation, which is either incredibly bold or completely irresponsible depending on what kind of player you are. I found out very quickly which kind of player I am. The game opens with a battle, not a tutorial, not a glowing button prompt with friendly text underneath. A full, enormous, completely unhinged battle. Dozen of allies, what feels like hundreds of enemies, a boss. Physics going insane in every direction, bodies flying, it's chaos. And it looks incredible, genuinely incredible. You're sitting up your chair going, okay, this is going to go extremely hard. And then an enemy runs at you and you press what you think is the attack button. Nothing useful happens. You press it again, something happens, but you have no idea what and why. A combo fires off, genuinely spectacular, and you have absolutely no idea what sequence of inputs produced that. You try again, completely different result. And here's the specific flavor of frustration that sets in. You can't tell if you're failing because the game is hard or because you fundamentally do not understand the rules yet. Those feel identical from the inside, but they are very different problems. One you just push through, the other you can't push through because you don't even know what you're missing. But here's the thing, Crimson Desert's combat is not designed like an action game. It is designed like a fighting game. You execute moves through specific button sequences, directional inputs combined with attack buttons, chained in a specific orders timed to specific moments in the enemy's animation. It feels clumsy at first, feels random. Feels like you're doing everything wrong even in the moments where you're accidentally doing something right. But then, just when you're starting to make peace with the combat confusion, the open world systems start arriving. All of them, immediately at the same time. Fishing, mining, cooking, animal breeding, bounty hunting, the Greyman camp where you recruit individual NPCs who each unlock completely different functions. An entire parallel magic dimension called the Abyss. And eventually a barber that requires genuine effort to unlock. And then the game pulled up a prompt. And it told me I have to clean a chimney. A chimney. I want you to really sit with this. I am 6+ hours into a massive, ambitious, physics-driven open world that a Korean studio spent what had to be hundreds of millions of dollars building. I have 17 types of crafting materials in my bag, and I cannot tell you what a single one of them does yet. And I'm barely keeping track of the combos. And above me, somewhere is a chimney that needs cleaning. That I apparently have the option to clean, if I feel like it. I did not feel like it. I left. The chimney stayed uncleaned. Here's the actual problem with all of this. And it's not that there's too much stuff, because having a lot of stuff can be great. The problem is that none of it feels really connected. The combat is one game, the exploration is second game, the camp building is a third, the abyss is apparently a fourth. You are jumping between them with no intuition for how they relate or if they even do. So you're sitting at hour 3 doing the stare, the stare, where you are technically looking at the screen but your brain checked out about 10 minutes ago. And you're going, is this bad? Am I bad? Is this my fault? What is happening right now? The answer, which the game will absolutely not tell you, is that you don't have enough context yet. You are reading a book in a language you don't speak. The book isn't broken, you just haven't learned the language yet. Here's the actual villain of the first few hours of Crimson Desert, and it is not the game, it's you. Your instincts, your beautiful, well-meaning, completely wrong gaming instincts. Every habit you've built from other games, wrong here. Not slightly off, wrong. And Crimson Desert will not tell you that. It will just let you be wrong with complete confidence until you figure it out yourself or close the game forever. The game was not the problem, my guy. Your open world brain says follow the markers, trust the compass, wait for the game to surface content. Except Crimson Desert's map has enormous unmarked regions. Massive stretches of world with no icons, no waypoints, no glowing indicators. The game genuinely expects you to wander into things rather than be directed toward them. Hidden bosses, buried ruins, unmarked temples, encounters that exist with zero announcement. If you wait for the game to bring content to you, you will see maybe about 30% of what's actually there. The map will look empty, you will think that there is nothing here. But there is an enormous amount here, you are just looking at it with the wrong eyes. So here's what you're dealing with in hours 1 through 6. A combat system that doesn't explain itself, a world that refuses to guide you, controls that occasionally betray you, 47 different activities introduced without context, all simultaneously right at the start when you have basically no foundation to absorb any of it. That is when most people leave. I nearly left multiple times. But I need to tell you about the moment things changed. And I have to be honest about how it actually went down because it wasn't clean. It wasn't a light bulb, it wasn't a boss fight that suddenly made the systems click or a quest that finally explained everything. It was messier than that and more embarrassing. Somewhere around hour 6 or 7, I had a session that just humbled me. Nothing was landing. Died to something that felt completely cheap, opened the inventory which I had now opened approximately 100 times, and I still could not explain to you the purpose of half of my crafting materials. I was done. Not rage done, not throwing the controller done. But instead of quitting, I did the thing where you're not ready to officially admit a defeat yet, so you just aimlessly do something low stakes to delay the decision. I got on the horse. No quest, no destination. Just riding, going nowhere. Existing in the world without trying to accomplish anything inside it. And here's what happened when I stopped trying to accomplish something. I started seeing things. Not new things. Things that had been there the whole time. NPCs actually move around with purpose. A merchant packing up his stall as it got dark. Two soldiers arguing near a road crossing about something that had absolutely nothing to do with me or any quest I had. Weather shifting, and you could see how it changed the behavior of animals and people. The whole simulation was just running. Had been running this entire time underneath everything, while I was too busy being frustrated and confused to look at it. And once I saw it, I could not unsee it. I went back to a fight, and instead of going in button first, I actually stopped before engaging. Looked at what I was about to fight, armor types, numbers, positioning. And the fight played out completely differently. Not perfectly, I still made mistakes, I still died. But, and this is the thing, when I died I could see why. There was a reason, not random failure. Understandable failure. And those two things feel completely different from the inside of a game. Random failure makes you feel like the game is broken. Understandable failure makes you feel like you're actually learning something. That distinction, that shift from one to the other, that's the click, that's the moment. The combat when you approach it with actual intention is genuinely excellent. The physics aren't decoration, they are the mechanism by which you win fights. Heavy weapon into a lighter enemy staggers based on actual momentum, not an animation trigger. Grapple throw into a wall works because the wall is physically there in space. These interactions are consistent, predictable. You can build strategies around them. You can use the environment as a weapon. And once you're building strategies instead of reacting randomly, the whole game opens up. The camp systems that felt like dead weight started making sense as an infrastructure. The life skills stopped feeling like filler and started feeling like texture. The empty looking map stopped feeling like absence and started feeling like invitation. Nothing about the game changed. I did. So let me actually break this down, because Crimson Desert is genuinely doing something, has been doing something the whole time, and once you can see the shape of it, the whole experience reframes. This is not an RPG with good combat, not a combat game with an open world attached, not a life simulator with some fighting in it. It's all of those things running simultaneously, expecting you to move between them the way you'd naturally move between activities in a real place. Not because a menu told you to switch, because that's just what you do next. Start with the combat because that's where the reframe is most dramatic. The fighting game DNA is not aesthetic, it's structural. The combo system runs on directional inputs and button sequences the same way a fighting game does. The physics engine means enemy reactions are tied to actual momentum, which makes the whole system consistent and learnable in a way that random feeling early encounters completely hide from you. That doesn't arrive in hour 1 or hour 5, it arrives after you put the work in, but when it lands, it really lands. Now the open world, this is where the design philosophy gets most interesting and most misunderstood. The map is not empty, it's quiet, those are different things. Empty means there's nothing here. Quiet means what's there doesn't announce itself. Crimson Desert's world is dense with content. Hidden bosses, buried ruins, unmarked temples, unique encounters, NPCs whose behavior is strange enough to follow if you're paying attention. And none of it has a marker on it, because the design is explicit. This world rewards curiosity, not icon chasing. People who explore because something looks interesting find a ridiculous amount of content. People who wait for the game to surface content at them see a fraction of what exists. This is a philosophical position, not a development oversight. The game is saying we built a world, trust it enough to actually go live in it. And the simulation running underneath backs that up completely. NPCs have schedules, routines, cities feel inhabited rather than staged, like things are happening that have nothing to do with you. Environmental detail exists at a level that is frankly unhinged. No one asked for this, Pearl Abyss built it anyway. That attitude, building detail because the world deserves it rather than because the player will definitely notice, runs through this entire game if you're looking for it. The Greyman camp starts as deadweight and slowly becomes one of the most satisfying things in the game. You recruit NPCs who unlock specific functions. You delegate tasks to your warriors. Logistics you'd have done manually become things the camp handles. It sounds like an Excel spreadsheet, but when it materializes, it feels like something that genuinely grew alongside your playthrough. And the progression system, no experience points, no character levels, is the piece that makes all of this easy. Your power comes from gear, weapons, armor, abyss artifacts, all discovered through exploring. Which means every piece of the open world is directly tied to getting stronger. A chest you found because you went that direction for no reason. A boss in an unmarked clearing. An artifact behind a puzzle nobody told you existed. The loop, explore to find gear, use gear to engage deeper with the systems, deeper system engagement making you want to explore more. When it's working, it's genuinely hard to stop. Alright, honest talk for a second. Some of what makes Crimson Desert confusing early on is intentional design. Pearl Abyss made a deliberate choice to build real systems and trust players to learn them through experience. Not tutorials, not tooltips that explain every mechanic before you've touched it. Experience. That produces a specific kind of satisfaction, the kind you only get from figuring something out yourself, that you literally cannot manufacture with handholding. And Crimson Desert earns that satisfaction eventually. But some of what makes it confusing is just bad communication. And those two things are not the same, and the game deserves honest criticism for the second one. The Abyss introduction is the clearest example. Some players said that the way Abyss gets introduced was confusing enough to nearly make them quit. Not because the dimension is too complex, because the game doesn't give you enough context to understand why it exists, what it wants from you, or how it connects to the rest of what you're doing. I pointed this out because the game gets both too much criticism and too much credit for the wrong things. The intentional decisions are genuinely interesting and worth defending. The polished problems are actual problems that made it the early hours harder than they needed to be. But Pearl Abyss has been patching. Quality of life updates are showing up, the studio is clearly paying attention and moving fast. But the first impression is baked in, and the first impression is exactly what filters out to the players who would have loved what's past it. That's the real cost, not bad reviews. The players who left at hour 5 who would have been completely hooked at hour 12. Most people who buy Crimson Desert are not going to reach the version of this game I just described. That's not a flex, it's just the reality of how games like this work. Dense systems, minimal guidance, front-loaded friction. These games bleed players fast. The forums and Discord are full of people who hit hour 4 or 5, called it and moved on. They said, too confusing, couldn't figure out what to do, nothing clicked. And those aren't wrong reactions, those are legitimate responses to a real problem with how this game presents itself. The tragedy is when the drop-off happens. It happens before the combat develops any real fluency, before the open world reveals what it's actually full of, before the camp systems mature into something meaningful, before any of the individual systems start connecting into the actual game that Crimson Desert is. People are bailing during the tutorial period of a game that refuses to have one, and they leave thinking what they experience is what the game is. It is the worst version, it gets dramatically better. The floor is uncomfortable, the ceiling is extremely high, and most people never find out. So here's what I'd tell anyone at hour 4 thinking about uninstalling. Give it 12 hours. Not because the click always takes that long. For some people it happens earlier, but 12 hours gives you enough time to absorb the systems instead of just reacting to them. Enough time to go from random button mashing to intentional combat. Enough time to stop waiting for content to come to you and start actually looking for it. 12 hours and it still hasn't landed, that's okay. This game is not for everyone. It knows that, but it doesn't care. But if you're at hour 4, you're not at the part of the game that matters yet. You are at the part of the game that's trying to get rid of you. Don't let it. But there is one specific thing Crimson Desert does that almost no open world game does anymore. And it sounds so simple, it sounds stupid when you say it. It trusts you. That's it. It builds a world, fills it with systems, and trusts you to engage with it on your own terms, at your own pace, for your own reasons. No icon on everything, no managed experience, no hand holding you through every discovery to make sure you know it was the game's idea and not yours. It just builds the world and steps back. And that is so rare right now that when you first encounter it, it feels like a bug. Like the game forgot a feature every other open world has. What you're actually feeling is space, room to breathe, room to wander, room to be surprised by something that wasn't placed there for you to find at this specific moment in your playthrough. Just something that exists in the world that you happened to encounter. When was the last time a game gave you that? This is a game that earns every hour, a world that breathes, a combat system that rewards actual understanding. Moments of discovery that feel genuinely yours because no marker pointed you there. It makes a terrible first impression. It makes an incredible second one, and a third, and a fourth, and a quiet late night one where you look up and 3 hours disappeared and you have absolutely no idea when that happened. That's the click, that's the moment. That's when all the confusion was building towards the entire time. Now go find it.